Doing very well. We had you on the show, and I listened back to the interview this morning. We had you on about a year or so ago in October, right before the trade deadline, and there were a lot of rumblings and whispers going around that because the Bears were rebuilding, that they might deal you. And we asked you, would you be open to it? And you said you'd have to talk to your agent, et cetera. Obviously, that you didn't get traded. You did sign a free agent deal with the Jets. I would imagine last year on a lot of levels. Probably a little tough here because you probably knew in your heart that it was then the end of a pretty good run in Chicago, right?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get your head wrapped around both sides, of either being able to stay or having to leave, and I pretty much had my head wrapped around both of them, and it wasn't very difficult for me or difficult transition, so to speak, because just looking back at the past, history of guys I've played with and veteran teams when you have a lot of turnover. The Bears have had a lot of three head coaches in the past 8 years, and management has changed, and so when you have a lot of turnover in the front office and coaches and stuff, that means there's going to be a lot of turnover in the players. Guys want to get their own guys in there, and they have their own opinions about players. So, when Phil Emery first came in with Mark Trestman, we got rid of Brian Urlacher, one of the greatest to play the linebacker position. So, I knew that my time was coming, and it could happen to me, and it did. And so I wasn't going to sit there and pot about it. I just hit free agency and was blessed enough to be able to receive a contract from the New York Jets.
Yep. Smart enough, to know you get paid when you can because the NFL, it becomes a ruthless business. You're right. If they send Urlacher packing, as they did, they can send anybody packing. So why the Jets? I know you had a couple of suitors, and I've spoken to scouts that watch you extensively. They tell me that you can still play, that the gas tank is still pretty full. Why'd you decide on the Jets? I know you had some other options.
Yeah, I was in free agency, and the Jets offered me a contract. They had some other people who, were looking at me, but they never offered a contract. So I waited around a little bit and then decided to pull the trigger on the Jets. Looking at their team, reuniting with my boy Brandon Marshall there. I love big receivers, and we got two of them, him and Eric Decker on the outside. And, the defense is really good up there with the Jets. And Coach Bowles, they won 10 games last year, and were able to, make a large step towards, being a good team and contending in the AFC East. And so, just looking at that, it was a strong suit for me. Not only that they offered me a contract, but that this team is taking a step in the right directions. And I feel like not only with that, Brandon told me that their training room with John Melody is very good, and that me being 30 years old and being a running back the past 8 years, training room and rehab and stuff is very important so that you stay healthy and be on the field. And so I know Brandon has been playing for a long time, and, he was healthy last year, and I felt like, that's a way for me to be able to stay on the field and be on a good team, and we can make a run for the playoffs.
It's a good scout report there on the Jets. Talking to Matt Forte, Jets' new running back with us here on Tiki and Tierney. 8 really good years in Chicago. Terrific run. Now you start something new, and you mentioned some of your new teammates, whether it's Decker and Marshall. Of course, Marshall forever, Darrelle Revis. But I wonder this, how much are you paying attention to the stories that are going around with the quarterback? Because let's face it, Matt, right now the Jets don't have one.
Yeah, they got a few quarterbacks still.
We do?
But, I paid attention to it, but, Brandon has been in talks with him too, and just trying to see where his head's at. And as a player, I know how the negotiation part goes. When I got franchised, we had to negotiate, the entire off season until the deadline. So, I know he wasn't franchised, but, he's able to negotiate. He should do his best and take his time where he can get as much as he want to get. And so, still have time left for him to, sign and be with us. And I hope he does sign and come back so that he can continue to build off the momentum from last year that him and Brandon and Eric and all the other receivers in the offense had last year. So we can take a step in the right direction in that aspect, being that just continuing on with that momentum that they had last year. So, it's not all said and done yet, so we're still waiting.
No, I understand. And, Matt, obviously I do the show with Tiki. Tiki's off today, but I sit in the studio every day with somebody who played your position, played it at an incredibly high level, and retired pretty early. And, he knows as well as you know that life in the running back world is relatively short, and you're a young 30 for sure, but you're not going to be playing 6 or 7 more years. And not to belabor the Fitzpatrick stuff, I don't think you'll be playing 6 or 7 more years. Not to belabor the Fitzpatrick stuff, though. But if I'm you and I'm Brandon and I'm Decker and I'm Revis, I mean, if Fitzpatrick doesn't get resigned and they go with either a Geno or maybe they draft Paxton Lynch, there's rumblings of that. I know they like him. I mean, you don't want to go next season with a rookie. I mean, I know that it's the business and it has to play out, but your expectation has to be that it's going to be Fitzpatrick. And if it's not, you would be disappointed in that. I know I would be if I'm you. No.
Yeah, I mean, my expectations are that, just, basically because, he was there last year and he did so well. And but let's not get it wrong, a lot of his, contributions not on his own. It's a team sport. Somebody has to throw the ball, but somebody also has to catch it. And so somebody has to run those routes and stuff, and people have to block. And so, we all as a team have to work together. And so I feel that, my expectations are that he would be there. And I'd be disappointed that, I wouldn't get to work with him because of, him being there last year and the great job he did. But at the same time, you have to prepare yourself for, the worst or if that doesn't happen.
I got you. Talking to Matt Forte. Matt, let me ask you something about, and we asked you about Jay when we had you on last year, your former quarterback, Jay Cutler. All the quarterbacks in the NFL, he is one of the more polarizing ones. We know he's got a rifle, but there's been this reputation that, whether it's right or wrong, has plagued him and followed him for most of his career. You're finally gone. You're no longer a Bear. Was Jay a good teammate? Did you enjoy playing with Jay? Does he get a bad rap?
Yeah, he gets a bad rap. It's the same question everybody has been asking the last 8 years or the 7 years that I played with him. And, it's just the camera's always on him, and I think they just pick him out and they pick on him. And, he doesn't care because, the media doesn't, define who he is or, what kind of personal player he is. So, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't have to do anything to try to change anybody's mind because it doesn't matter to him that what people think about him. As long as he's true to himself and to his teammates, he's good with that.
Let me add this, though, here, Matt, and I certainly can't speak for everybody in the media because, and I said this came up with something else we were discussing with Kevin Durant earlier. There are some people in the media who have agendas and who are a little, they slant a certain way to fit a story. I get that. There's some bad seeds and everything. But, you use the term pick on Jay. In large part, generally, the media doesn't focus on somebody negatively unless they kind of give us a reason to do it. And, I'm not saying that behind closed doors, Jay's not a good guy. I'm sure he is because a lot of players he's played with, I've asked him the same question I asked you, and they all kind of seem to say the same thing. But it's when a player says, we pick on so-and-so, I think we're just kind of reacting to what he gives us to react to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you can say that, because, that's the media side. But from me being a